But yet, if you think about these reductive theories, whether, this black person is better or this white person or this Asian person or their religion or whatever it is.
The good news is nobody's any better than anybody else.
Exactly.
Ever.
And so what I say, you talked about, at least I'm hearing this word, more like, I think about like an illusion or a distraction. I think about this like a magician's trick. Right now, we have real problems in this country, in this world. We have techno-fascism creeping in like we can't believe. I mean, this is beyond what Hitler or Mao or Stalin could ever imagine, the kind of power that we're talking about. We have that on the one hand over here. We have AI, which we haven't even talked about yet, but we have an explosion of AI. This is the year AI went mainstream. It's already on the 4th iteration. We have all those things. Now we also have declining birth rates all around the world, which Elon Musk has rightly sounded off about, that we are facing a dearth of workers in many countries and consumers. We have that and a supply chain that is falling apart. And yet we're talking about these things here. And I think that a big reason is the magician's trick. Look over here while all this other stuff comes in and people aren't talking about what I think are the real important issues. We spend so much time on all these things that make us more divided, more reasons to hate somebody. We talk about this in the book too, but on social media, we are consigned to echo chambers, and the algorithm picks more videos to even further cement our beliefs, to polarize us. And here we are talking about these things, but instead we're not talking about the issues of the book that we wrote together that we need to be talking about. And that's just one small thing of the challenges that we face. And so when I hear you say that, I have been following this a little bit, but I have to believe that all this is meant to keep us at each other's throats, to keep us fighting with each other instead of talking about the real issues that matter.
Yeah, it is super fascinating to me. So let's go into some of those real issues that matter. And maybe you can give us some examples that we illustrated in the book.
Sure.
That, maybe I love the story when, the guy is driving and he gets pulled over by a cop. Mm-hmm. And the cop tells him, oh, you're driving and you're not allowed to be driving because this is a self-driving vehicle. Mm-hmm. So take us into that story.
Sure. Well, the idea behind this, and by the way, the technology is here. We have in any given car at this point, there are 40 to 50 computers. They call it the IoT, the Internet of Things. And some people believe that the journalist Michael Hastings, who died more than a decade ago, he was investigating some very sensitive stuff about the government, and his car had a very mysterious way that it went off, and he ended up dying and being killed in his car. And some people believe that they've had this technology for a long time where essentially they can shut the car down. And so right now, there are things called 15-minute cities. They rolled them out already in places like Oxfordshire, England. And so we wanted to talk about this idea where essentially you think about the car and what that meant as a symbol for America, the idea of freedom and mobility, right? Well, if the powers that be have their way, they will be kill switches in all these cars, and those 40-something computers will talk to the government and shut it down. And so the example that we give, because we really want people to understand this, and I should back up and say the way that we wrote the book, first of all. Robert and I had this idea behind this that, when we talk about techno-fascism or computers or social media, it can go over some people's heads. And we didn't want people to feel like this was an intellectual exercise, but it doesn't affect them. And so we wanted people to feel emotionally invested. We want them to feel viscerally connected to the people. And so every chapter has a show and a tell. And the show that you were mentioning earlier is the scene in which the father and his son are driving, and they're not supposed to be driving this car because every car is too dangerous to be driven by a human driver. It has to be a self-driving car, right? And then the tell part, of course, is the argument or the context to it. And so we wanted to also imagine something that can happen. I mean, it probably already is happening in places like China, but nowadays we know it when we're pulled over. The cop flashes their lights, and then we pull over. Well, in our story, the cops don't have to do that. Because of the computer, because of those 40 and 50 computers within the car, it literally pulls the car off the road. The cop can pull the car over, and as soon as the car pulls over, all the windows go down, and then they can tell the person what to do on the inside. Now, we didn't include this in the story, but I've also heard other examples that in the near future, if we all are on self-driving cars that are controlled by the government or whatever, if you have a warrant for your arrest, they'll just take you to the police station, no questions asked. And so with this example here, we want people to wake up to the idea that not only are they neuromining us, not only are they mining our data, not only are they nudging our behavior, but also they want to control our mobility. So going back to 15-minute cities, the idea is that everything that you would need would be within a 15-minute radius, your hospital, your stores, whatever. And if you were to exceed that 15 minutes in your car, either one or two things will happen. One, they shut down the car, just completely shut it down. Or two, if by that point we're all on the social credit system like they have in China, they will just deduct the money from your central bank digital currency account.